What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. This one we're breaking down the Forever 400 presented by Mobile One. Shout out to Kevin Harvick. And this will be on Sunday, October 22nd, around 2:30 p.m. at Homestead Miami Speedway. Not only am I excited for this race because Homestead is a great track, it can run by the wall, and we have high tire wear, I am finally going to my first NASCAR race. If you saw my tweet last Sunday, you would know, but I'm super excited for this. And if you happen to be in South Florida on Sunday, let me know and I'd love to see you. But anyway, if this happens to be your first time here, which I highly doubt at this point of the season, my name is Chris Pennell and I break down NASCAR and NFL DFS each and every single week on this channel. And if you do end up enjoying today's video, even if you don't, make sure you like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you just want to mean to me in the comments, call me ugly, whatever it may be, I'd love to hear from you. And really quick, I do have to mention the sponsors of the show, Prize Picks and Underdog. And on both sites, you can use promo code CPEN to get a deposit match bonus up to $100. No strings attached. It is free money. Use that to your advantage. And I love both sites. I play on both all the time. I love doing drafts on Underdog, and they offer promos at the time on their pick'ems. And Prize Picks is the best prop site out there, and they offer a ton of promos throughout the entire week. So I highly recommend checking it out. Use the link down below in the description or the pinned comment. Use promo code CPEN. Help me help you. And moving on to the strategy portion of this track, it's nothing too special here. It's going to be your typical intermediate type builds where you pretty much want 2 dominators per lineup. You can stretch up to 3 as like a guy that starts high and has the potential to get fast laps throughout the race and maybe get up front, but you're mainly looking at just 2 main dominators in your builds. And if you're looking to similar tracks to Homestead, obviously you can throw all the 1.5s or intermediates in general here, but I would say the 2 most comparable tracks are going to be Darlington, which is also a steeper high tire wear track, although it's not quite 1 miles. It is 1.336 or something like that, so it's close enough to where I can call it an intermediate / short track, but it's got that tire wear that we're looking for. Then Auto Club, well, it's also not a 1.5 mile track. It's 2 miles in length, but it does have similarities and it has a lot of tire wear. I'd say Auto Club and Darlington are probably your best comps. But you can also look at all the intermediates, which I think is totally fine because the guys we've seen fast at those tracks this year, you'll probably see them fast once again. And the guys that really excel at this type of track, it's going to be Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson. And no surprise, they were obviously fast in practice and fast in qualifying. And as always, I have to mention, if you ever want access to anything you see on the screen behind me, the entire NASCAR model projections for both sites, DraftKings and FanDuel, prop projections, my sim scores, my betting model, which has been fantastic so far this year, up over 30 units, just following the green bars. That's basically all I do. Cheat sheets, my Discord community, which is popping 24/7, and I do cover other sports as well, including the NFL, which is currently on, and then NBA is starting very soon. So I'll be covering 3 sports, although NASCAR is ending soon. So again, if you want to try it out completely free 4-week, link down below in the description or the pinned comment for that. And if you like it, you can stay. If not, tell me to kick rocks, but I do think you like the content over there. So let's dive into it here. And we just got done with practicing qualifying, so I don't know exactly where everything's stacked up. So we're going to go through this together. My first initial thoughts and reactions on this slate. Then obviously have the more updated stuff over on the Patreon. But I do enjoy just kind of running through it with you guys first because it's always nice to get your first initial reactions, and then obviously I can get swayed on things after I work on projections, ownership projections afterwards. But up top, no surprise here, he is the clear favorite for this race. Kyle Larson, 11,500 on DraftKings, 14K flat. Over on FanDuel, he qualified inside the top 5 here, and he opened up with some insane odds to win this race. Like, I figured he would be the betting favorite, but I was thinking more so of like a plus 450, plus 500. Nope, he came in at a plus 275 over on DraftKings. I saw him at plus 250 in other places, which I get it. He won last week, and Homestead, he absolutely dominated last year. And this is a great track for him, riding around the wall. Like, this is the perfect track for Kyle Larson because he's also great at high tire wear track. So honestly, it's just the absolute perfect setup. This in Darlington, which he won in Darlington earlier this season. The thing is, though, I mean, plus 275 is really short for intermediate racing and the NASCAR Cup Series, the way the tracks have played out so far. But, I mean, I get it. He should be the favorite. And these are pre-practicing qualifying odds, so I imagine they will change a little bit, but I don't really think Kyle Larson would go up too much. I mean, maybe since he qualified 5th instead of on the front row, he goes to like 300 or 350, but honestly, I don't think it's going to matter. If you're looking at practice, which is really the most important thing here. Long run speed, it was there for Kyle Larson. He was definitely looking like the guy to beat. 3rd in the 10 lap, 1st in the 15, 2nd in the 20, 2nd in the 25. Now, Ryan Blaney also put together a very strong practice, but with how good Kyle Larson typically is at this track, with them being so close in practice speeds, I think you have to give him the edge there. So if you're playing cash games this week, even though he is expensive, and I have not yet done roster construction or anything like that, so I hate to say it for sure, but he would probably be my starting point because I think it's very likely he gets up front and dominates at some point and probably ends up winning the race. Denny Hamlin at $11,000. He's only $12K over on FanDuel, so while it's tougher to fit him on DK, FanDuel, I'm going to like him a lot more. Plus, we don't really care about the lap lead points as much over on FanDuel. And with him getting 6 extra place differential spots over Kyle Larson, you have to imagine Denny's going to be a top 5 contender. I think he's in for an excellent play over there. And you can also probably fit him in with a guy like Kyle Larson in addition. Meanwhile, on DraftKings, while it is possible, it's probably going to be pretty hard to do because I can't imagine the cheap plays are going to look too good this week. I mean, just taking a little glance down here, I'm not really seeing anything that pops up off the page. So we'll see as we talk through. But Denny's fine for a tournament play on DraftKings, on FanDuel. A little bit easier to fit over there. Tyler Reddick, $10,700. He's starting in third. And I pretty much view him as the same play as Kyle Larson. Now I don't trust him as much as Kyle Larson, so projection-wise, he probably won't be as high. And he wasn't as good in practice either. 8th in the 1 lap, 9th in the 5, and then kind of trailed off a little bit for long run speed, 13th, 16th, 15th, and 11th. But with how good he is around the wall, I'm not really concerned about that. I think just during the race when everything's amplified and the wall just happens to be the fastest way around the track, that's where Tyler Reddick will excel. So you could play him with Kyle Larson together if you wanted, but honestly, I would think he's more so of a pivot off of Larson. So for cash games, Larson's your man. In tournaments, if you're trying to get off the ownership, you pivot to Tyler Reddick and hope he's the one that ends up dominating the race, although both could certainly do that. William Byron, $10,500. He's starting in 7th. I believe it was, I forget what year it was, but I remember watching William Byron winning a race here at Homestead. And every single time we're at an intermediate type track, William Byron's going to be a top 5, top 10 contender. That's just what he is. In practice in the long run, top 10 speeds across the board. So I'm okay with him, but he probably is just a notch below guys like Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, and Denny Hamlin for me. So I probably won't have as much exposure, but he's fine for tournaments. Christopher Bell, he's starting in 13, so you get a little bit more PD upside here. But I just don't think he's going to be a top 5 contender like these other guys have the potential to be. Like, it's certainly possible. But if you're looking at the practice speeds, 8th in the 5 lap, then 14th, 15th, 11th, 12th, like he should be okay, like top 10 for the majority of the race, but I don't think he's going to get up front and dominate. Martin Truex Jr., $10,000. He's starting on the pole, and we know track position is always going to be huge. The 19 team, though, has definitely been fading off this second half part of the season so far, especially since the playoffs have about started. And even through the playoffs, they haven't exactly been that great. Opened up with the 3rd best odds to win this race, only behind Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson. He's pretty underrated riding around the wall, so I think with him starting in the pole, as long as he doesn't screw up, he should lead the early portion of this race. But with high tire wear, we're going to have to come down pit road at some point, so obviously things could get shuffled. I think he's certainly in play, but I wouldn't say I prefer him over the likes of a Kyle Larson. But he does come in $1,500 cheaper, so I understand if you want to lock up the early down points, he is cash viable. But for tournaments, like, I'm still going to play him, but I'm just trying to see, like, the guys he is priced around. Like, I do prefer him over Christopher Bell. I probably prefer him over William Byron. Reddick's a bit of a toss-up. Denny Hamlin, probably like him a little bit more. And then Kyle Larson I like the most. And then if we look at the 9K range, I wouldn't really say anybody, like, really stands out too much. I do like Blaney with the long run speed, but other than that, I mean, I think Truex definitely looks really solid in this lower 10K to 9K range. Probably ends up being the best play there, because you got to factor in the dominator points. Kyle Busch going down to the 9K range. He's starting in 18th. Looks like he's going to have a borderline top 10 car, no longer in the playoffs, but we know he's fine at tire wear tracks. 5th in the 5 lap, 9th in the 10, 11th in the 15, 10th in the 20. I think he's going to lack dominator upside, so I probably won't have too much exposure there just because Truex can lock up those dominator points starting in the front row. Over on FanDuel, though, I don't hate the price tag at $10,500 if you're looking for a PD play. And speaking of FanDuel, Ryan Blaney's only $8,500 over there, so I have to imagine he's going to be pretty popular based off of practice speeds. Was 21st in the 5 lap, but after that, 5th in the 10, 2nd in the 15, 1st in the 20, 1st in the 25, and 1st in the 30. Those are better numbers than Kyle Larson. Now, they were in different groups, keep in mind, and I think some of the speeds were a little bit off. But at his price point on DraftKings and FanDuel, he's firmly in play for tournaments and even on FanDuel cash games. If anybody plays cash games on FanDuel, I mean, I don't personally, but he's only $8,500, so the ownership should be there. Chase Elliott, $9,200, 95 on FanDuel. He's starting in 16th. Just doesn't really look to have speed this week, and he was terrible last week. I know it's not a direct comparison, and he was starting in the rear of the field, but man, Chase was really bad. And he finally got up to the teens, and then he ends up having that restart penalty. Puts him a lap down and kind of kills your day, but he was doing well at the end. Just took him 2 hours to get up there, but it was unfortunate. But yeah, 20s across the board here in practice, so I don't really think I should have too much interest in Chase Elliott here, even though the intermediates haven't exactly been terrible speed-wise for him this year. If you're looking at his numbers, I mean, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 15s, which is obviously encouraging, but I just don't really like what I saw from practice. And I would prefer Blaney Chastain and Kyle Busch all in this range, all looked a little bit faster. And I think Ross Chastain could be a bit of a sneaky play here. Looks like I'm going to like him more on DraftKings this week than I will on FanDuel, just looking at the pricing. But he's starting in 8th. And while the short run speed wasn't great, long run speed definitely got a bit better. 10th in the 1 lap, 5th in the 20, and 5th in the 25 lap. And we know Chastain has had some success at tire wear tracks, and Darlington's been pretty kind to him so far in the next gen car. So I do think Ross would make some sense for GPPs there. Chris Buescher, he looked to be one of the slowest cars on the track for some reason this week, and his teammate Brad Keselowski looked a lot better. So I'm sure they're going to share notes, and they always tend to drive pretty similar, although Keselowski was much better than Chris Buescher was last week. So I'm a little bit concerned from the speed I saw. Now I imagine he's going to get a little bit better during the race, but I don't think I'm going to have too much Chris Buescher. Joey Logano is going to be the chalk of the week on both sites. Really cheap on FanDuel, below $8K, $8,500 on DraftKings. If you're playing cash games, just an easy plug and play. Going to be going to a backup car, I guess, but still was fast in practice. Now it's not going to be the same as that car, but I mean, 3rd in the 5, 8th in the 10, 6th in the 15. Like, these are pretty good numbers across the board. Brad Keselowski, $8,300. I like him quite a bit for tournaments this week. Looks like he's going to have a top 5 car. He qualified top 5, and he should be pretty strong, and he's usually really good at conserving his tires, so I think Keselowski is fine for GPPs. And hopefully a lot of people won't go that route with him starting in the top 5, but I think he can kind of hang around there, pick up some fast laps, and it's not out of the question that he could dominate. We saw it last week at Las Vegas. I'm not expecting it, but it's in the cards. And then Kevin Harvick, slow in practice, although it's kind of hard to believe he's just going to suck during this race. And I feel like every single time Harvick just like sandbags practice and qualifies in the 20s at these types of tracks, he just ends up working his way to the top 10 out of nowhere, even though practice sucked. So I'm not going to be too concerned about it. And I do think he's in the player pool, but he's probably my 3rd favorite driver here behind Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski, but I would put him a little bit above a guy like Chris Buescher. And this is the Forever 400. Kevin Harvick's got the Budweiser paint scheme, so I think we're all just going to be rooting for him this week anyway. Bud Wallace kicking off the 7K range. He's starting on the front row with Martin Truex Jr., and he was really fast in the short run practice. First in the 1, 5, and 10 lap runs. Faded off a little bit in the 15 through 25 lap runs, but still looks like he's got a borderline top 5 car. And at this price point, I'm putting him in the same exact category as Brad Keselowski, where he's firmly in play for GPPs, not in cash games, but he can kind of hang around that top 5 and pick up fast laps. Ty Gibbs, $7,800, qualified inside the top 10. Practice was horrendous for Ty Gibbs, so I feel like he'll end up fading back a little bit, but he should be a top 15 contender despite the poor practice times, but I'm not going to have a ton of interest here. Alex Bowman is someone I do like. I like him at high tire wear tracks. We've seen him have success at Darlington and Auto Club in the past. He's in the mid 7K range, starting in 12th, 14th in the 1 lap, but then 2nd, 7th, and 9th in the 5 through 20 lap runs in practice. I think he can be a borderline top 10 driver, and we can get him below 10K in a Hendrick car, so I'll have interest in Alex Bowman for sure. Dale Suarez was decent in the short run, faded off in the long run. Don't think I'm going to have a ton of interest there. Eric Jones starting in 19th, poor in practice. We know he's really good at Darlington, which is somewhat of a similar track, but I would have liked to see a little bit more in practice. I feel like he'll probably run right around where he starts, which isn't, I guess, the worst thing, but I'm not excited about it. AJ Allmendinger starting in 25th. I think Allmendinger will probably end up projecting a little bit better for me because a little bit faster in practice, top 15-ish, 15 through 20, starting in 25th, so you get 6 extra spots here. So I would guess as of right now, I'm going to assume AJ Allmendinger will have better projection than Jones, but I can't say that for certain, but it's a good assumption, I would say. Eric Almirola kicking off the 6K range here. He's starting all the way back in 30th, so you have to imagine he's going to have at least some ownership. But man, I just typically hate the Stewart-Haas cars at these track types. And if you're looking at his numbers so far in the next-gen car, also with Homestead last year, average finish 17th, running position right around 20th. Drive ratings not amazing at 63, but 4 top 15s, 4 top 20s, I guess it could be worse for Almirola, so if you need a PD play that's in the 6K range, he's fine. John Hunter Nemechek, I'm excited to see him in the 42 car, although, I feel like we could have played Hocevar this week. The guy's just been crushing it almost every single week, but Nemechek, I do like him. Pretty much practice right around where he qualified, so I don't think there's going to be too much upside here, but should be running around 20th through 25th all day, which might not be the worst thing down here, but Ricky Stenhouse is the one that I have interest in. Of all the 3 we talked about already, he'd probably be my favorite. Qualified 23rd, which it never seems like he qualifies that well anyway. But looking at practice, he was honestly very good. 13th, 12th, 6th. And then the 15 through 25 lap runs, he was 3rd, and 4th. So we got some long run speed here. I like him at these steeper. And even at tire wear tracks, I guess he hasn't been terrible in his career looking at some of his overall numbers. And if you're looking at the specific data set that we're looking at, for the season plus Homestead last year. Average finish of 15.6, running position of 18.1, 5 top 15. So I think Stenhouse firmly in play here. Michael McDowell will probably end up being a pass for me. Just not a lot of interest, and he was really slow in practice. 5th in the 1 lap, and then 35th in the 5, 35th in the 10. Don't see a reason to really play him. Austin Dillon. So if you just don't think these guys are going to move through the field, I would honestly not be surprised if guys like just Almirola, Briscoe, Priest, Haley were all just kind of stuck where they started. Austin Dillon might not be the worst tournament play in the world. Tire tracks are not bad for him, and intermediates aren't as bad either. And he's a fair price on both sides, starting in 6th, 16th in 5 lap, 15th in the 10, but the 9th in the 15, 14th in the 20, 10th in the 25. Didn't end up getting me a 30 lap run over in practice. But if you're looking at this sample size here of 7 races, Austin Dillon, average finish of 13.7, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 6 top 20s in 7 races. So I actually don't hate Austin Dillon here as a tournament play just because all these cheap plays just look awful. And he actually has legit top 10 upside. Briscoe, I typically pass on at these intermediates, but he showed a little bit of life in practice, which was encouraging. 10th in the 1 lap, 7th in the 5, 12th in the 10, 12th in the 15. So while I normally cross him out, I would say he's got to be in the player pool at this low 6K price point. Ryan Priest, similar to his teammate, ran a little bit better in practice than what we normally see for these track types. Looks like he's got about a 20th, 25th place car, so starting at nearly 30th, he's playable at $6,100. Justin Haley probably will be passing there, not seeing too much upside. But I'm not saying they're like complete fades. You just kind of have to filter in these cheap plays in the back, because if you have a strong stance of saying I'm all in on Harrison Burton this week, well, if it works out, congrats, but I don't really see what you're seeing to go all in on a cheap driver this week, really. So just mixing and matching for the most part is probably going to be the best. But just looking at the practice numbers, I would say Briscoe, Dillon, and Ricky Stenhouse in the 6K range definitely look the most encouraging right now. Austin Cindric, the Penske cars were fast, but I mean, go figure. Austin Cindric, once again, just one of the slowest guys out there. 33rd in the 5 lap, 29th in the 10. No real interest there. Corey LaJoie, pretty much practicing right around where he starts. So if you just happen to have $5,700 left, I guess I don't hate it. Harrison Burton starting nearly at 30th, a little bit faster in practice, 18th in the 5, 19th in the 10, so that puts him in play. Looking at his numbers this year at similar tracks in Homestead last season, average finish of 20th, running position of 22nd, so I don't think projection-wise he'll look terrible. Ryan Newman, I hate the guy, I just wish he wasn't even in this race, unfortunately, and I'm going to the race, so I actually have to watch him on the track, which is going to be unfortunate, so hopefully it doesn't screw my day over, once again, like he has multiple times. This year, Todd Gilliland, he's slow. Yaley, no thanks. Ty Dillon got a little bit of speed there. 25th in the 5, 23rd in the 10. If you need an absolute punt option this week, Ty Dillon would be my preference over guys of Josh Bilicki, Yaley, Todd Gilliland. And Bilicki's an auto fade for me. He was the slowest in the 1, 5, and 10 lap. So probably going to see him really struggling throughout this race. But no BJ McLeod to say never this week, which is unfortunate, but hopefully we get him back next week in Martinsville. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys this week. Hopefully it wasn't too quick and I didn't feel rushed. I've just got to hit the road here soon because we're heading out to Miami the day prior to check out the city. But hopefully you enjoyed, and if you did, make sure you leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. More than happy to answer them. We wish you all the best of luck, and I'll see you all next time.